Hey everyone, we've got a lot to talk about today because multiple big storms are set to hit the United States over the next couple of weeks. That means snow is making a comeback in places like the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and the Northeast, and we could even see a full-on winter storm by the middle of this week on top of that. There's a massive storm brewing on the West Coast that could drop as much as 150 inches of snow in the higher elevations of the Sierra Nevada. Yeah, you heard that right, 150 inches. So in today's forecast, we're going to break down everything you need to know about these upcoming winter storms. Let's start with what's happening right now. There's a lot of moisture moving across the East Coast, bringing snow to parts of southern and central New England, along with some heavy rain. The good news is that all of this is moving offshore, so things will start clearing out for the rest of the day. But don't get too comfortable because another snow event is on the way, thanks to an Alberta clipper that's going to sweep through the Midwest and into the Northeast by Monday. Now, shifting over to the West Coast, this right here is a monster atmospheric river. And not just any atmospheric river, this is a Category 4 event dumping crazy amounts of rain and snow across California. This system is so powerful that a piece of its energy will eventually break off and move east, setting the stage for a potential winter storm in the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and the Northeast. But before we get into the details, hit the subscribe button, like this video, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. And let's talk about snowfall totals. We're looking at massive amounts of snow in the Sierra Nevada, potentially up to 150 inches in the higher elevations. That's over 12 feet of snow. And with that much moisture coming in, flooding is also going to be a big concern for California. Now, as we move into February, things are going to get interesting. The weather pattern is shifting, and we're expecting a few more winter storms and maybe even an Arctic blast or two. But where those will hit is going to be different from what we saw in January. So let's break down the jet stream and what it means for winter weather. Right now, the polar jet stream is way up to the north, which is allowing a lot of warm air to build across the southern U.S. We're talking about 80-degree temperatures in Texas in February, which is wild. And that warmth is only going to stick around as we head through this week. Like I said. But what does that mean for winter storms? We do have a couple of troughs expected to dip down along the Canadian-U.S. border. And those will be the systems we're watching for snow, ice, and even severe weather. The most active regions over the next couple of weeks will likely be the central and northern plains, the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and the Northeast. That doesn't mean we won't see winter storms further south or west, but these are the areas that will be at the highest risk. Now let's go into more detail about what's happening this week. Over on the West Coast, we've got tons of snow and rain coming down, especially in the Pacific Northwest. That system is going to dump feet of snow in the mountains and several inches of rain, leading to flooding concerns. Meanwhile, in the Midwest, an Alberta clipper will move in tonight and to Monday, bringing light to moderate snowfall across Michigan and into the Northeast. Nothing too crazy, just a few inches for most areas. But by Tuesday into Wednesday, things start to get more interesting. That's when a piece of energy from the atmospheric river could break off and move east, potentially developing into a larger storm system for the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and Northeast. There's some disagreement between weather models about how big the storm will be. The GFS model isn't showing a huge system by Wednesday night, but the European model is painting a much bigger, more impactful storm. Because of that, we don't have a solid answer yet on how much snow or ice the system will bring, but there's even a chance for severe weather, which is not something you usually see in February. In fact, we could see severe storms as far north as Indiana by Wednesday, which is very unusual for this time of year. By Thursday, this system moves into the Northeast, and I think there's a pretty high chance we'll be talking about some kind of winter storm there by the end of the week. And then if the GFS model is right, we could see another storm system developing around February 9th or 10th, with potentially even more snow on the way. Yeah. But now, beyond that, things start getting a little uncertain. The models are showing a huge winter storm around February 12th, but forecasting that far out isn't very reliable, so we'll have to wait and see. Let's also compare the European model to the GFS. The Euro model is showing a much bigger storm forming earlier in the week, bringing ice and snow to the Midwest and Northeast by Wednesday. It also suggests a bigger threat for severe weather in the Ohio Valley and lower Mississippi Valley. However, it also pushes the storm further north, which would lower snowfall totals for the Northeast. So bottom line, We know a storm is coming, but we still have big questions about snowfall amounts, ice potential, and severe weather risks. Saying don't forget, the atmospheric river event on the West Coast isn't going away anytime soon. Northern California is going to stay active all the way through Wednesday or Thursday before things start to calm down. Or even after that, we're still looking at more storms hitting California, Oregon. Looking ahead, the 2nd of February will bring continued snowfall in the mountain regions in the upper Midwest. We'll also see some snowflakes. By Sunday, February 3rd, we expect to see some lighter snowfall over the Great Lakes, the Northeast, and the Northern Ohio Valley, with some of Ohio likely seeing snow as well. The pattern remains quite north focused for the first few days of February, and we'll see a warm up in the east, but it won't be a major shift. That warmth is expected to continue in the southwest too, meaning a zonal flow in the jet stream. This creates a more uniform weather pattern where we're not seeing significant ridges or dips, but it's more neutral, leading to a warmer and calmer pattern across much of the country. Heading into February 4th, we'll see minimal change or maybe the beginning of a western trough developing, but we'll mostly stick with a zonal flow. As a result, storms will track more from the central west, which is typical of a zonal flow setup. A low will also form in the Midwest, and that will bring more snow, especially to areas north of the jet stream and precipitation for the mountains. By Monday afternoon, February 5th, we'll see that warm up making a comeback in the east, and it should be equally warm in the southwest, but the flow will remain north. We're not expecting any deep cold at this stage, just a lot of snow in the mountains and light snow across the Great Lakes, northern plains, and upper Midwest. Tuesday, February 6th, will bring little change to the pattern, but we'll see a low develop in the western part of the U.S., which will bring precipitation and snow to the area. The mountains will continue to see snow, and by Wednesday, February 7th, we'll see a low pressure system over Nebraska with snowfall developing behind it. The Northeast and Great Lakes will likely see snow as well, but again, there's a possibility for a warm front and some ice and thunderstorms depending on where that front sets up. By Thursday, February 8th, things get a little more interesting. The east will warm up significantly as a warm front moves through, bringing moisture from the Gulf, which can lead to the potential for thunderstorms. These types of setups can be tricky as the instability in the atmosphere caused by the warm, humid air can trigger significant storms. But after that, we'll see a cold front push through, bringing some cooler air back into the east. Still, without a major ridge or trough, this cool down won't be quite as dramatic as some might hope. We'll also see more snow in the mountains and some unsettled weather across the western U.S. toward the end of the week. By Saturday, February 9th, the pattern starts to show some promise of more significant cold and snow, especially in the northern plains, Ohio Valley, and Great Lakes. Still, there's a bit of hesitation with the models in terms of how strong the cold will be and whether or not this will lead to the kind of Arctic air mass that we saw earlier in the winter. Development of the positive PNA Pacific North American pattern will likely influence the weather significantly, bringing colder air into the east by the middle of the month. The key to watch is how the storm systems evolve as they move across the country, as this could lead to a period of more widespread snow across the northern U.S. with heavier snow possible in the mountains for the following week. It's looking like a more active storm pattern will set up across the country, but the exact details remain uncertain. There's a possibility of a major storm developing by February 12th with heavy snow and cold in the north and thunderstorms in the south. By February 13th and 14th, we could see another wave of Arctic air pushing into the eastern U.S., which might bring some significant snowfall to the northeast and mid-Atlantic, while the western U.S. continues to see snow. Looking toward mid-February, the models are pointing toward an Arctic air mass pushing deep into the eastern U.S., which would bring more severe cold. However, this is still very much in the long range, and we should expect the models to shift as we get closer to those dates. Despite that, this could be a signal of a more intense cold snap, similar to what we saw in January. By February 15th, temperatures could plummet across the Northeast, Great Lakes, and Northern Plains, with heavy snow likely in the Midwest and Great Lakes. All in all, we're still dealing with a highly dynamic and changeable weather pattern, with significant snow and cold still likely for the northern U.S. as we move into the middle and later parts of the month. While the European model shows a more pronounced cold spell by the middle of February, the GIF is less aggressive with the cold, though it still suggests snow will continue across the northern parts of the country. With that in mind, it's a good idea to keep an eye on the models as we approach the second half of February. as things will likely remain very unsettled and subject to change. Whether you're hoping for snow or trying to avoid it, there's certainly a lot to watch for in the coming weeks.